The 2015 NASCAR Sprint Cup Series season was one of chaos. Jeff Gordon's retirement tour, the chaotic Auto Club race, Carl Edwards' first year at Gibbs, Kyle Busch's injury and comeback, Austin Dillon's terrifying crash, the fuel mileage race at Watkins Glen, Logano v. Kenseth, Jeff Gordon's last win, Martin Truex Jr. and Furniture Row's rise, and much more. But how would the narrative have changed if not for the chase? Well, today we're going to find out. Let's break down the 2015 season. In the first 6 races, we would see 5 different winners. Joey Logano would win the Daytona 500 with Jimmy Johnson winning at Atlanta. Then Kevin Harvick going back-to-back at Las Vegas and his playground at Phoenix. While Brad Keselowski would win the chaotic race at Auto Club, and Denny Hamlin would win the 6th race at Martinsville. So after the first 6 races, the standings looked like this. Kevin Harvick, the 2010 champion, was at the top with his 2 wins, but besides his 2 wins in the other 4 races, he would have 3 second-place finishes and an 8th place. Harvick opened up the season with 5 straight top 2 finishes and an 8th. That is insane consistency. But the question was, could he continue this consistency? The answer to that question would be yes. He would continue his streak with a 2nd place at Texas, and even though he had a rough week at Bristol, finishing 38th, he would bounce back with another 2nd place finish at Richmond, an 8th at Talladega, a 2nd at Kansas, and a 9th in the Coke 600. He would have 11 top 10s in the first 12 races. He also led laps in 11 of 12 races, with the exception being the Daytona 500. Up to this point, his average finish was 6.4. That is an insane number. And the only driver that seemed to keep up was Martin Truex Jr., who up to this point only had 2 career wins in the first 9 years of his career and was 41 points behind, almost an entire race behind Kevin Harvick. At Dover, Truex would lead the most laps but end up finishing 6th, while Kevin Harvick would once again finish 2nd, growing the gap to 44 points. At Pocono, Truex would get his redemption and win the race, but Harvick wouldn't be far behind, finishing in 2nd and closing the gap to 39 points. The next race at Michigan, Kevin Harvick would be in a bad spot due to the race being rain-shortened and having a bad pit call. Because of this, he would finish 29th, while Truex would finish 3rd, closing the gap to 15 points. At Sonoma, Harvick would get right back on track with a 4th place finish, while rival Martin Truex Jr. would have it all fall apart on lap 29.
Hey, see, Tony Stewart in the 14, remember, he and Chad Johnson decided to stay out, and we got Martin Truex Jr. in the tire barrier.
Buried in there.
He has drilled the tire packs.
Yeah.
With that crash and eventual 42nd place finish, this put him out of range and 53 points behind Harvick. At Daytona, Harvick would once again remain consistent with a 4th place finish despite getting caught up in that post-checkered flag crash. And as for Truex, he wouldn't even make it to the checkered flag.
You can follow Miss Sprint Cup as the big one's happening once again, coming out of turn number 4. Into the wall, Kyle Larson. Multiple cars sideways. Martin Truex Jr., a lot of damage to the front end of his car.
With that race, he was now down in 5th, 87 points back, while Dale Earnhardt Jr. would take 2nd place, but was ultimately 63 points back and out of reach from Kevin Harvick. At Kentucky, no one would be able to make up any major points on Harvick because of him scoring an 8th place finish. So after the halfway point of the season, there was no one within a race of Kevin Harvick. But over the next 6 races, that would soon change. Over the next 6 races, a new contender would emerge, and that would be Joey Logano. Joey Logano would close the gap to Harvick over the next 6 races due to him being more consistent than Harvick. At New Hampshire, Harvick finished 3rd with Logano not far behind in 4th, just slightly growing his gap to 69 points. At Indianapolis in the Brickyard 400, both drivers scored the same amount of points, flatlining the gap to 69 points. At Pocono, however, their consistency would change.
Now Austin Dillon in front of them, they're sliding. Well, oh, it looks like a blow up of the 4. Kevin Harvick looks like the engine blows up on that 4. Saw the smoke.
Yellow down.
You see it coming out of the right side pipes.
Get her down, get her down.
I'll tell you what you do, you just take them dang old spark plugs out, and in that little hole, you just put a little oil around there, just like Bobby Unser says, it's like it'd go boom, boom, just like that.
Kevin Harvick's engine would go sour just 20 laps into the race and would make him finish 42nd, while Logano would go on to finish a mediocre 20th, but would still shrink the gap to 46 points and now in contention. At Watkins Glen, Kevin Harvick, trying to go for a fuel mileage win, would run out of gas with 2 corners to go and would hand the race to Joey Logano and finish 3rd in the process, and the gap was now 42 points. At Michigan, Kevin Harvick would have a solid day, finishing 2nd, while Logano would come home 7th, stretching the gap to 48 points. At the Bristol night race, Joey Logano would win, but title rival Kevin Harvick wouldn't be far behind, finishing in 2nd and only getting the gap down to 43 points. If Logano was going to make a run at this championship, Harvick would need to have a string of bad races in order for Logano to close up. The next race, in the Southern 500 in Darlington, Joey Logano would come home 4th with Harvick not too far behind in 5th and would close the gap by 1 point to 42 points. At Richmond, Joey Logano would come home a solid 3rd while Kevin Harvick would finish a mediocre 14th, closing the gap to 30 points. But at Chicagoland, the lead would swap hands.
Yeah, he got really tight. Oh, there it is.
Around goes the 4.
Hold the brake, hold the brake. Stay up there. Stay
A
up
lot
there,
of damage to the back of that car.
And this is what we talked about. This is what we said at the top of the show. The pressure of these decisions.
Real slow here. Real slow.
Due to Harvick crashing out and finishing in 42nd, while Logano would go on to finish in 6th, and Logano would now have the point lead by 6 points over Kevin Harvick. At New Hampshire, Harvick would dominate the race and lead the most laps, but later in the race, he would try to win via fuel mileage, and he was looking to grab his 3rd win on the season. But with 3 laps to go, it would all come crashing down.
Back to the gas, down the backstretch. And he's out of gas. You just heard him. We ran out of gas. Not enough fuel saved. Kevin Harvick's going to come to pit road.
With that happening, Harvick would finish 21st, while Logano would once again have a very solid day, finishing in 3rd, and would extend his advantage to 22 points. The next race, Harvick would have an answer to Joey Logano's consistency. Harvick would dominate the race and win, while Logano would finish 10th and would bring the gap down to just 8 points. At Charlotte, Joey Logano would put class back in session by dominating and winning the race, now extending the gap to 14 points. With 6 races to go, the battle was just heating up. Logano would be going for his maiden title, and Harvick just for his 2nd. Joey Logano would wreck Matt Kenseth to go back-to-back and win the race at Kansas, while Harvick would finish 16th and was now 32 points back. At Talladega, both drivers ran solid all day, but towards the end of the race, Kevin Harvick's transmission would go sour.
Remember, we heard Kevin Harvick, he thought he was blowing up earlier, and then he continued to say it just wasn't right. Now, moments ago, he said it just won't go. This is as fast as I can go. I'll stay high to stay out of the way.
With that, Harvick would make a controversial move that is still talked about to this day and would wreck the entire field to save some points and maybe his season.
Coming back into the NBC Sports restart zone, 220 feet. Green flag back in the air. The 4 not going. They wreck behind him. The green flag is out as they cross the start-finish line. Will they throw the caution? Trying to get back up to speed. Caution comes out. Now the question is, who was in front?
Stay in front of them. Stay in front of them.
With this, Logano would go on and win his 3rd race in a row and would grow the gap all the way to 49 points, over a race ahead of Harvick, and with 4 races to go, his title shot would look very good. But what I didn't talk about is in the past 2 races, Joey Logano would ruffle some feathers, Matt Kenseth's feathers. Logano would wreck Matt Kenseth for the win at Kansas, and the next race at Talladega, he would cut him off in the pit lane, and then at Martinsville, Kenseth would get collected in an early wreck caused by Joey Logano's teammate, Brad Keselowski. And Matt Kenseth decided that he'd had enough, and when he got back out on track, he would have one goal, wreck Joey Logano, and he would do just that.
And Kenseth cleared by Logano. Maybe no. Kenseth takes him out.
With Matt Kenseth absolutely annihilating his ass and giving Jeff Gordon a shot to win his last race, Logano would finish 37th, while Harvick would come home in 8th place finish, cutting the gap down to 21 points. The next race at Texas, Logano wouldn't have a much better week.
the 78 of Martin Truex Jr. as points go.
And you see Dale Earnhardt Jr. with that momentum off the top of the rail.
Oh, around goes 22 of Logano. Logano around, bringing out the first caution. Logano running fourth, and a left rear tire is down. Shredded it, and also the inner liner.
He would blow a tire and rip his car to shreds on lap 10 and finish the race in 40th, while Harvick would have another solid race, finishing third and took the lead back by 17 points. At the penultimate race, where it was rain delayed at Phoenix, Arizona of all places, yes, it rains there, and with Harvick finishing second and Logano only managing a third, the battle going into Homestead would look like this. Harvick just had to finish 15th, and he would be guaranteed his second championship. In the final race, Harvick would qualify 13th and Logano 2nd, and both drivers would be in top 5 contention all day long, but at the end, Harvick would come home 2nd and Logano 4th, and that would clinch Kevin Harvick the 2015 championship. So Kevin Harvick would beat Joey Logano in 2015 by 22 points to win his second championship in our timeline. Jeff Gordon wouldn't have been in contention all year, and neither would Kyle Busch because he missed the first third of the season. And Martin Truex Jr., while looking like a threat at one point, would not be a contender. But let's not diss Kyle Busch's 2015 title. Instead, let's say he ran all the races and never got injured. Keep in mind, this is hypothetical. So the metric that I will use for this will be his average finish at every track up to that point, DNFs not included, and take that average and average that with his finish in the fall. Daytona's average 14, that's 30 points. Atlanta, 33 points. Las Vegas, 37 points. Phoenix, 39 points. Auto Club, 40 points. Martinsville, 38 points. Texas, 39 points. Bristol, 40 points. Richmond, 40 points. Talladega, 34 points. And Kansas, 36 points. In total, this would give him an extra 406 points and would vault him up to third, 48 points back. Still not a champion, but very close to it. Well, that will do it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week for 2016.